Lost Ark. Now that's a name I haven't heard in quite some time. And I bet that so do you. I mean, it's such a weird thing to say. This game had such an explosive launch, at least, here in the West. And it was very crazy. Everyone talked about this, and then it just kind of disappeared. I guess, I played this on launch, so I kind of can attest for myself that I enjoyed the first hour of it immensely, and then when I actually started to play the game, I just got overwhelmed and quit the game. I never liked the entire Logan bonuses and all of the pop-ups and stuff. I know it's extremely popular for Eastern MMOs. I was just never a huge fan of those. Like, this system always deter me from playing MMOs, and, it just kind of, it is what it is. But I've seen a lot of content and some of the raids. It did look amazing, so I wanted to give this game another go. Maybe I will try it in, like, early 2026, but let's watch this video first. It seems interesting. Like, is it worth playing?
Lost Ark somehow has the single best returning and new player experience, while also having the single worst. All at the same time. We'll get into it, but in my opinion,
MMOs
the pros outweigh the cons, and this might be one of the best MMOs to come back to in 2025. So, Lost Ark is an ARPG MMO. It's a top-down isometric click-to-move MMO with hands down some of the
combat
genre's
was
best
so good.
combat.
I'm so surprised no one in the West has tried to do anything like that. Like, why always Eastern MMOs are the one to break the mold? Like, never Western MMOs. They always do the same shit, and it's so annoying. Like, I swear to God, I think we are a few MMOs away from the biggest Eastern MMO to just completely dominate the entire genre. And you know what? It's actually funny because it kind of happened with Black Myth Wukong. Everyone slept on, like, the entire, I guess you can call it Souls-like genre, even though it's, like, Japanese and, the Souls-like series. And they did kind of dominate, but I mean, Western games like slept on this type of games for eternity. And then just Black Myth Wukong came out and blew everyone out of the water. It pulled some insane numbers, and it wasn't trying to cater to us Westerners. It literally respected the lore of, like, the mythology and stuff. It was so incredible. It's one of my all-time favorite games. It used to be my all-time favorite game until, like, Expedition 33 came out and kind of took its throne, but still, man, I love this game to death. It was so much fun. I really do think we're a couple of bad Eastern MMOs away from having, like, one giant successful one.
Every attack feels weighty and heavy, and every skill feels like an essential part of your rotation. Each decision you make in combat...
what do they need to do to succeed? Just drop the pay-to-win elements. I know it's extremely popular there, but you just need to drop it, Chief. Like, us Westerners will never expect this type of things. No matter how much you'll try to doggy train us to love this, it's never going to work.
Will have a resounding impact. In my opinion, the game is
And by the way, most people from the West do consider pay for convenience pay to win. I know in the East it's like okay to pay for convenience, but us, I believe most of us, maybe I'm wrong about this, I think that most Western gamers are not okay with pay for convenience. Like, XP boost, speed boost, all of that type of stuff that makes your life quicker. They also incentivize developers to intentionally sabotage their own game to sell you the solution. They create problems to sell you a solution. Like, it's really bad. It's really bad for the environment, and I think most of us are against it.
Absolutely beautiful, but less so in your typical immersive MMO fashion, and more so in the scope, colors, contrast, and overall graphics. Whether you're sailing the seas or playing through some of the story quest's epic scenes, or just participating in some of the most difficult content in the game, Lost Ark features some of the best looking areas with tons of variation in terms of art direction and vibe. Now, Lost Ark was originally released in South Korea in 2019, but after partnering up with Amazon Game Studio, it was released to a Western audience in 2022. I played the game for the first time in 2023 and overall enjoyed my experience, but I found the endgame to be a little difficult to crack into. It was a little too RNG dependent, a little too pay to win, honestly, and a little too group focused. However, the Lost Ark team, both through Amazon...
Too poor? Can someone comment too poor? Because I know, I get these comments all of the time when I talk about, like, pay to win stuff and Ashes of Creation. People are just calling me poor, and by the way, you're completely right, but come on, guys. Let's get real here.
Games and Smilegate has outlined a new direction for the game in 2025, focusing on making it more accessible, solo-friendly, and less reliant on pay-to-win. This shift has been detailed in several team updates and roadmap announcements, and honestly, there's already been a ton of groundwork laid out. And
communication is always good.
Changed the gameplay loop. So I figured now would be as good of a time as ever to hop back into Lost Ark and find out if it's worth playing in the year 2025. Speaking of taking something that's rather confusing and making it a little bit more digestible, why don't we talk about the returning player experience?
Dude, I always love this about Eastern games where you like just click on your class or what you want to pick, and it just show you like this really cool showcase of your character or what can it be like. I never understood why we never did this here in the West. It's so wild to me. It's so cool. It looks fantastic, man. They really lean into, like, I noticed that about Eastern games. They really lean into, like, the power fantasy. And I love that. I mean, that's why I play video games, right? I don't want to be myself. I want to be, like, cool dude that just, I don't know, just slay people. Like, it's just cool as shit. And I want to see more of this stuff in, like, Western MMOs for sure.
Within Lost Ark. While I want this video
I guess you do have this in, like, ARPGs, sure. But this is not unique to Lost Ark. I mean, all MMOs, like, watch all Eastern MMOs, they almost, every single one of them has this.
As a review, mostly,
we don't.
I also want to help inform any potential new and returning players about what they can expect. So, returning to the game introduced me back to my 4 characters. You'll notice that all of my characters are level 50 or 51, and then beside their level is their item level. Currently, the max level in the game is 70, and the highest item level is 1700.
Looks maxing.
So it's safe to say I'm quite far behind. The last time I reviewed Lost Ark, I played the Berserker class, so that's what I'll be jumping into again. Now, Lost Ark has always provided something known as power passes. For example, when I first played the game, by reaching the end of the main storyline, you were given a free Vern power pass. This would boost an alternate character through all of the story quests up to the most recent additions to the game and give you some starting gear as if you were a character just progressing to that point in the game. This was really helpful because alts can make up an important part of your progression. It seemed, despite not having logged on...
am I against this? I'm not really sure. Guild Wars 2 has something similar where for each expansion you buy, you get a level 80, which is like the max rank, level boost. So... if it's bad or not, I couldn't really tell you. I mean, some people would appreciate that. Personally, myself as an altaholic, I love playing from scratch, but maybe that's just me. I'm not really sure. You guys tell me in the comments.
For the past few years, I was eligible
I think it's okay. I'm not fully against it.
Which would grant my Berserker item level 1585 gear, a bunch of tier 3 accessories, and it would complete all relevant
I guess it also depends on the game
up to that point. This is because there's an event going on currently called Rise of the Valkyrie, which will be available until November 19th. It's an event to promote the new advanced female warrior class, Valkyrie. I was very happy to see this as a returning player because it would allow me to immediately jump into the progression loop and at least start getting closer to endgame content. So after using the power pass on my Berserker, I was transported to Elneed, which is the main city in South Curzon, and I was immediately asked if I wanted to use...
Yo, dude, that sword is fucking sick. What the fuck? Oh my god. Dude, why can't we have shit like this in Western MMOs? I'm so, dude, I'm just done. Like, I'm truly done. It's so annoying because I love how Western MMOs played like, and I don't like the greedy pay-to-win stuff that Eastern MMOs have, so I don't play them. But I just wish we can have the best of both worlds. I mean, I guess everyone are, right? But it's just so annoying because you want this stuff in our game, but we never get it. Like, we never get cool shit like this, man. Like, why do we have to suffer?
Berserker technique or mayhem, with a short description of each playstyle. By choosing one of these options, the game would actually set your specializations, engravings, gems, and every system you can think of to be catered to either of those styles. There are so many systems and items and progression loops within Lost Ark that all make up important and integral parts of your characters.
But this is also what kind of deterred me. I mean, clearly there's so much to this game in terms of system. You know, I always said, like, keep it simple, keep it real. That's usually what buys most players. When you have so many systems, it just kind of becomes overwhelming and people just end up quitting. And that's unfortunate. I'm always against, like, too many systems. I think that's what actually ruined Retail WoW for me. And so many players. You have so many arbitrary systems. And also, once you get into those systems, you realize they're not that deep. So, what's the point of them? I just think you should take out all arbitrary content and just, you know, delete it. Just remove it from the game. And make it one straight line so players can understand what the hell is going on. Or at least don't put it all at the start, right? Just spread it throughout the game so gamers can enjoy an easier start. And as they progress, they actually discover more things. Like, that would have definitely been better.
Power. And of course, because of this crazy amount of customization, there are some definite metas which tend to stand out and are much more powerful than others. But this new system allows returning players to choose one of those metas, and as you go forward, the game is going to provide you with something known as growth quests, which are going to reintroduce you to each of those systems, and provide you with the proper knowledge so you can make your own decisions about your build moving forward. One important thing to note is that if you'd prefer to just find the most optimal build for your character online, you can skip this process and look up the Lost Ark Nexus, where you'll find a detailed guide with any and all information regarding your class.
Oh, dude, man, these type of things always ruined, like, MMOs. I hate it when players are trying to min-max like that. I guess it's just nature of the beast thing. It is what it is. Like, players will always try to optimize the fun out of a game. You know, if they can, but it's just unfortunate to see. I don't like that, but it is what it is. I'm fully aware of that. People are doing this in, like, classic World of Warcraft. It's crazy.
I'll link that down below because the two options that they give you aren't necessarily completely optimized. But this is already exactly what I mean about Lost Ark having one of the worst, yet also the best new player experiences. They have basically made the concession that yes, our game is extremely overwhelming to jump back into. So the solution is that they've decided to completely handhold the player while reteaching them each of these systems. So I equipped my new 1585 armor and weapons. They looked pretty awesome. Generally, Lost Ark has some of the coolest looking gear and cosmetics. At least I've always thought.
It looks like that.
Next, my growth quest told me to speak with novice instructor Aino, who I was standing right beside. And it's through Aino that you're going to go through all of the systems and begin understanding the gameplay loop. I also just realized his name is Aino. Like, I already know this. Anyway, he introduces you to the style settings page, of which you already chose a style.
That's clever.
Note, you can freely switch between these two styles for 30 days. And within this page, it shows you all of the skills, engravings, gears, and gems that it has equipped to support said style. Afterwards, you're shown how to summon and use your mounts and pets before being asked to participate in a chaos dungeon. Now, if you're familiar with Lost Ark from before, this will probably be the first bit of content that you remember. Chaos dungeons and guardian raids are daily activities that you do every day, which supply an immense amount of materials that you can use to upgrade
daily stuff.
You can get these rewards once per day per character. Chaos dungeons involve fighting huge swaths and waves of enemies who drop plenty of jewelry for you to dismantle afterwards. You can also get other honing materials and bits of loot along the way. Similarly, Guardian raids offer the same type of rewards, except instead of facing waves of enemies, you fight against a boss. Within a Guardian raid, you have 3 lives, and the enemy's health bar is never shown to you, so you won't know how close you are to actually defeating it unless you kill it.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Generally, though, these are pretty easy compared to a lot of the other encounters in Lost Ark, which I might add at this point, it's one of the most challenging MMOs, especially in terms of PvE.
Yeah, I've seen some of the raids.
Anyways,
they're
afterwards,
crazy.
I
Maybe I'll
opened
check
up my
one of them in the video.
And yeah, this is what I mean by overwhelming. The game absolutely floods you with gems, engravings, skills, items, gear, honing materials, other materials, rapport items, you name it.
And to be fair, it's like, it's not the only culprit. Like, every single Eastern MMO under the sun does this. It's just so unfortunate. Like, we don't want million items, like, glowing up and stuff, like it's, you know, actually Diablo, right? We want one good item. I mean, that's the beauty of classic World of Warcraft, right? The fact that you can get one blue item and you're like, oh my god, this is so good, and you stick with it for like 20 levels. Like, that's great. We don't want to replace our gear every 2 minutes. It's not working for us. At least, you know, from my perspective.
Lost Ark's probably giving you a ton of these.
I never was a huge fan of, like, these quick dopamine
the vast majority
rushes.
of these items can be dismantled or just placed into your storage, which is fairly large, and you can worry about it at a later time. When you're just coming back to the game, you're mainly going to want to focus on acquiring honing materials so that you can upgrade your gear. However, if you are a returning player, I would hold off for the time being on attempting to upgrade your gear, and instead focus on something new known as the Arkesia Tour. You see, Lost Ark has always had a ridiculous amount of horizontal progression, which can contribute in a major way to your character's
horizontal?
Before, if you had been away from the game for upwards of 2 years like myself, you had a lot.
Dude,
I mean, a lot of horizontal progress to catch up on. And Smilegate recognized that this was a bit of an issue for returning players.
You saw what I'm talking about? Like, that's crazy. Imagine being bombarded with all of that throughout the game. That's insane.
So, in March of 2024, they released the Arkesia Tour. This tour essentially has 4 levels, and in order to complete each level, you're going to have to do 3 missions in each part. Each of these parts will come from a different section of the world of Arkesia, and I think all in all it takes about an hour or 2 to complete. The tasks are really simple, you don't really have to fight anything, it's mostly just exploring and talking to NPCs. But the rewards are ridiculous. It's going to give you a ton of roster levels, which are permanent stat upgrades to every one of your characters. You're going to gain rapport with NPCs, Una's task reputation. You're going to get combat.
Dumb questions. I'm not really that familiar with the game. Are you being rewarded for having ults in this game? Kind of like MapleStory did it? I really love that system. I think that's great. I loved shared accounts and being rewarded for having ults because I'm an ultaholic myself. Does Lost Ark do this as well? This is interesting.
Level experience, a ton
of
collectibles and songs. You can think of it this way. They basically broke down the entire horizontal progression system into an easy catch-up mechanic for returning players. It doesn't cover all of the entire previous horizontal progression that existed, however, it does cover a significant chunk of it. You'll get tons of skill points, rewards for islands, adventure tomes, cards, but if you want to 100% the horizontal progression, you'll still have to go back and do so. But this is a great way to get your character up to speed and competitive within the current tier. Upon completing each section, as you can see, you get a ton of rewards. My best advice, right-click and use everything that you can use, look up anything that you're kind of unsure about, and put everything else into storage.
And I love pirates.
Then work on the next section. Like I mentioned, each of these sections is going to take part in a different continent or area of the world, and as long as you're on one of the main continents, you can bring up your map and press Board Ocean Liner to sail to any of the other continents freely. Anyway, after you've sailed plenty, discovered a parrot, and tried to find the last few quests for the last steps before realizing about an hour later that you had these quests accepted on another character from years ago, which you had to then abandon before being able to finally re-accept those quests on your character participating in the Arkesia Tour. After all of that, you'll finally have the entire tour completed. This got me all the way to roster level 87, meaning I got a ton of permanent stat increases for all of my characters.
Roster level, so yeah, you are being rewarded for having ults.
I had a ton of island rewards and upgrades basically across
That's great.
my entire
I love this.
account. And this is just one of these new systems that Lost Ark has been adding in order to make it so much easier for returning players to catch up. I think it takes a certain level of self-reflection from the developers to do an internal critique and be like, hey, we have way too much content bloat for new and returning players to reasonably expect them to catch up to the endgame. Let's create a...
Imagine if Blizzard thought this way and did the same. Crazy, right? I mean, no, Blizzard just went the route of like, fuck it, nothing is relevant, and just you skip to the newest expansion. And it's so goddamn garbage. Except for the part they actually force a new player to play BFA, which is, some would even consider that crime.
Cool system whereby participating in some easy missions
a jailable offense,
max,
from my perspective.
It can get pretty close to reasonably caught up and start participating in the newest content. So, at this point, you've picked a playstyle for your character, you've participated in some dailies, and probably got a bit of a grip back on the world of Arkesia.
But what if I'm
toured the place and received a ton of horizontal progression
Tell me about it.
Now, it's probably time to start upgrading your gear. You see, the South Curzon Power Pass grants you item level 1585 gear, which places you directly at the start of Tier 3. Your new goal is to upgrade your gear through honing all the way to the item level of 1640, and that will indicate the start of the highest tier, Tier 4, and the push towards the highest item level, 1700. Well, okay, so what do I need to hone my gear? Well, of course, your typical honing materials for your tier. For me, that's refined obliteration and protection stones, honor shards, silver, fusion materials, and of course, gold, as well as any honing books or special honing materials to increase your chances of honing. Now, all of these different materials have a different method of acquiring them.
And I never understood why like Eastern MMOs can never do crafting right. Why they always make something RNG based. It's so weird. Like, I never got that. Just make it fun, and that's it. Make the materials hard to gather, and just make people craft the weapon 100%, but make the materials hard to gather. You should reward experience rather than RNG. I never understood that.
Get some through your daily chaos and guardian raids. You'll get some by participating in weekly Una's tasks for Una's tokens, which you can then exchange for gold. You can also get gold from selling things to other players on the market. You can get other materials from different merchants with daily and weekly rotating shops. There are a ton of ways to acquire all of these
rotating
things,
shops,
again,
man, they love it. They love
now,
this type of thing.
Lost Ark has introduced a catch-up mechanic here as well. You see, from now until October 15th of this year, there is another catch-up event known as the Express Mokoko Challenge. This event is going to have you participating in different raids at different item level thresholds in order to get insane amounts of rewards. We're talking enough combat XP to take you straight to the max level, tons of resources to make your gear and skill and engravings more powerful, and probably, most importantly, plenty and plenty of gold, which is one of the more difficult honing resources to acquire. It was hands down through this event and this event alone where my entire opinion of Lost Ark changed. You see, up until this point, I was under the assumption that all of the raids and Abyssal Dungeon content had to be done in a group, because that's how it used to be. I generally play MMOs as more of a lone wolf, though I will group up for content from time to time.
I think most players do play like that. Yeah, I do think that most players are like that, because, you know, people inherently want to just experience an MMO as part of a big environment, but they don't necessarily want to be forced into a group. That's why whenever I see an MMO that kind of forces you to do that, like Ashes of Creation, where it forces combat upon you and forces you to like huddle up with people you don't know and make a group, it sounds fun on paper, but in reality, these games always flopped. Which, you know, it is what it is. Most players want to choose their own destiny, and I think that most people are kind of lone wolves, at least the ones who play video games, right? Because gamers has certain nature to them, and they just like to play solo. Myself included, by the way. And when I play a video game, I like to party up and I like to do content together, but most of the time I end up playing alone because it's just way faster and I don't have to wait for anyone. I can just kind of come home from work and do my thing. I think most people are like that. So yeah, it makes complete sense. Why would developers look at that and be like, okay, you know what? We're not going to force it upon the players, but we're just we'll give them the space to do whatever they want. So that's pretty much like the best thing ever. And I think that was what so good about classic World of Warcraft as well. Because classic WoW didn't force anything upon you. Yeah, some things you needed a group for, like dungeons, obviously raids and stuff. But you could skip all of that. You could just do other things. You didn't have to go to dungeons to level up. You could have just continued the journey, do quests. Even though I think you're missing on like great stuff because classic vanilla dungeons are goated. But yeah, I mean, you didn't have to do that. And that was the beauty of classic. It just made stuff easier, but you didn't really have to do it. So yeah, I guess this is how the cookie crumbles.
I much prefer solo progress, personally. And, well, Lost Ark has introduced solo raids, allowing you to progress through almost all of its raid content as a completely solo player. Now, you can still do these old raids in a group, and the rewards can differ slightly. And if you want to participate in the current most challenging or the most recent additions to the game, generally those won't have a solo mode available. This was perfect for me. You see, Lost Ark has some...
So, doing old raids as a solo player, I've never seen anything like that. That's actually very interesting. You kind of have the same thing in retail World of Warcraft where people would go to like older raids and try to farm a certain mount or anything really unique. Is it good for the game? I think it is. I think it depends on how old the raid. I guess newer content not being soloable, that's good. Like that's a great decision. Obviously, you need to like team up with players and do that. I think that's the best possible choice for them to do, to make. Sorry. And I mean, solo raids, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of conflicted on that, but sure.
Exceptionally
if it works for them and people love that, like why not?
We're talking 10 plus mechanics per boss fight, which many of them can wipe you immediately if you don't execute the mechanic perfectly. Doing this in a group always kind of sucks, especially as a returning player, as you could be slowing down others and making people mad because you suck. But now that a solo mode exists, you can die as many times as you like and learn a boss or a raid at your own pace.
That's true.
So the first portion of the Makoko Express Challenge asks you to face off against Vultan. The recommended item level for this raid is like 1420, so you'll already heavily outgear this raid. Also, something important to note is that within the Makoko Express Challenge, you generally only have to participate in one of the gates, the one with the big boss fight. However, if you go and do these raids separate from this challenge, which can grant you rewards once per week, you will have to go through all of the gates and all of the boss fights. Now, I died a couple of times despite heavily outgearing Vultan, and that's because you can outgear something as much as you like, but if you fail the full wipe mechanics, you're still gonna die. So generally, with all of the boss fights I participated in moving forward, I would give it a few attempts, and if I couldn't figure out why I kept dying, I would then look up a guide, and usually I was able to get it down the very next try. So I took out Vaultin, and in order to participate in the next portion of the Mokoko Express Challenge, I would need item level 1600. So with all of these rewards from beating Vaultin, not only did I manage to get to level 64, I was finally ready to get Honing.
Level 64? What is the max level?
It works exactly the same as you might remember.
Also, it looks incredibly difficult to level up. That's interesting. I really wonder how, like, damn, well, that's kind of crazy. Like, what is the max there? By the way, whenever you upgrade a gear, you just wait to have the most optimal gear and then you start honing it? Or, like, can you swap it? Like, how the hell does it work?
If you played Lost Ark before, there is a honing NPC where you take your armor and weapons. You're going to upgrade each piece using honor shards and afterwards hone it to the next level. Honing is an RNG system. You will have a percentage chance to hone an item, each time using more and more resources than the last, until eventually a pity system will kick in and grant you a 100% chance of honing. As items become...
Oh, dude, this is massive cringe. Holy... I hate this system, man. Like, I truly do. It's so annoying. It is truly so annoying.
Higher and higher level, the chance to hone successfully can get pretty small. We're talking like 7%. So you're going to want to use any extra or special items like honing books or solar protections and whatnot to increase your chance. Even if it's just a small increase, this could save you plenty of resources and money moving forward. And trust me, even with the 20,000 gold that I was rewarded with for completing Vaultin, that still was not even enough to get me to 1600 item level. I was now hard stuck at 1595 with only a few ways to go about acquiring more gold. Luckily, I still had my weekly Una's tasks available, which I was able to exchange for Una's tokens and exchange those for gold. This was enough gold to take me to 1600, meaning that I could proceed to the next portion of the Express Challenge. And this time, I would be facing off against Kai Angel. This fight was significantly more challenging than Vaultin. Plenty of full white mechanics, and also the required item level to access this raid was more in line with my
it's like a Souls-like boss. It's so cool.
Luckily, after a few attempts, I did manage to down Kai Angel, and now I get a whole bunch more gold and a whole bunch more rewards. And this is sort of the gameplay loop of this event. You're going to face off against the solo raid, you're going to get rewarded from that raid, you're going to go hone your gear in hopes of hitting the next threshold for the next raid within the event. It seemed like for me, the main bottleneck was gold. Every time I would get really close to the next threshold, I would run out of gold from too many honing attempts. But luckily, there is yet another way to acquire gold in Lost Ark. Probably the most common method is by participating in these solo raids outside of the actual event. You see, every character has 3 gold acquisitions that they can use per week on endgame content, which consists of solo raids. Like I mentioned before...
Wait, you're limited in where you can get the gold from? What?
Or outside of the event, most of these raids actually have
horrifying,
3 gates,
if I understood this correctly.
Increase in difficulty. So Gate 1 will be a somewhat challenging boss, but usually pretty easy. Gate 2 will be a much more challenging boss, and finally Gate 3 will be the main boss fight and the most challenging. So I managed to take down Kai Angel again. Her Gate 2 was particularly annoying, and then I fought Akin, which was absolutely no joke. It took me a bunch of tries to beat this guy, and then I participated in one known as Trampled Garden, which was kind of strange because
dude, I really want to play this game for the raids.
The end boss is a giant dragon with some unique mechanics, but I personally found this to be much easier. Or maybe I was just getting a bit more familiar.
Wait, it changes your camera angle?
Anyway, with all that gold acquired, I was finally able to push towards item level 1610, which unlocked the next threshold. I got my rewards from there as well, and that leaves me where I'm at currently. I'm basically locked out of acquiring any more gold until next week, unless I want to do some trade
you do get locked. Dude, what are these cringe systems? Locking you out of earning gold if you play the game? What's the incentive of playing then? It's so weird. And don't get me wrong, I'm against endless grind, but why in God's name there's a system for it? That is so weird. That is so weird. I never understood these type of things in video games. It's honestly just, it's baffling.
To make money. Or I could level an alternate character to participate in some of these weekly gold acquisition methods as well. Which I actually did. I've been playing my sorceress on the side as well. She's a much more difficult character to play, I've found, but when the rotation is working, it's absolutely working. Now, outside of all of this, which is essentially your core gameplay within Lost Ark, there are a couple of things I would like to mention. First of all, your Stronghold. This is a roster-shared location where you basically have all of your player-owned amenities, from a house to a farm to even skilling areas. Within your Stronghold, you can send your ships on missions and manage your fleet and crew who are on said missions. You can obviously decorate the entire place. You can participate in crafting, and furthermore, check up on your research every day to research new recipes for crafting and new buildings items and upgrades for ships, etc. And secondly, trade skills. You get about 10,000 energy per day that you can use across mining, fishing, logging, foraging,
oh my god,
this energy is once again locked to your roster, and these skills supply you with a ton of resources.
Why not make crafting fun? Why it has to be limited? This is, oh my god, this is so cringe, dude. I hate this. I hate this so much. It is so bad, so unhealthy for the game.
You can craft new items to sell or repair your ship.
All of these systems that forces a player to log in daily and just make sure they feel bad if they miss one day because they have unspent energy or, you know, any sort of resource. It's so cringe. I hate that. But dude, it's such a emotionless game. Like, why would you do that to a player? Why would you force him to play your game like that? Just make it fun and players will come. Like, what is this? What are we doing? Man, this is why I will never play Eastern MMOs, man. Like, this is the reason. They're so good on a base level, and then they add all of this system that just completely ruins everything. So annoying.
They all have plenty of uses and their own upgrading and leveling system.
Like, honestly, this is
why.
And it's so unfortunate.
All of that. And even with the entire Arkesia Tour completed, Lost Ark still has an insane amount of horizontal content to tackle. There is rapport and islands and Makoko seeds and collections, and it goes on and on. If you're a completionist, this is like your own personal paradise. Oh yeah. Speaking of paradise, this is another system, believe it or not, which was recently added, which also helps with returning
more systems.
Ketchup. Basically, Paradise grants you a separate gearing system outside of your character's equipped armor. You can upgrade this gear by participating in Paradise, which is made up of 3 different sections. There is Elysian, the Crucible, and Hell. Elysian you can enter up to 5 times per week, and this will drop items which you can equip to increase your power, or you can dismantle them to receive materials to increase the power of your currently equipped items. Then the Crucible acts more like a sort of timed boss fight, and you can enter here with Crucible challenge tickets, which you can earn from Elysian as well as a few other places.
Damn,
the Crucible can reward honing materials, silver, and a few more upgrades.
I love playing a warrior character here.
But
looks
most
sick.
importantly, the Crucible can reward keys for Hell. And in Hell, you will descend deeper and deeper based on the rarity of the key used. When you finish descending into Hell, you will receive a choice of 3 or 4 chests.
Wait, actual Diablo?
Materials, gold, silver, etc. But it can be quite a massive amount of whichever chest you choose. Anyway, all in all, that basically covers the basics of the returning player experience.
Wow,
within
this was
Lost
the
Ark.
basics?
For me, it's almost like playing an entirely different game with the addition of these solo raids and all the catch-up mechanics that allowed me to reintroduce myself
if the story is good.
to my class, but to the rest of the game. Which, honestly, despite being so blatantly chock-filled with systems and currencies and items and so much information, I was actually able to get a solid grasp on everything fairly quickly. I think with the recent roadmaps and additions to the game,
imagine what a newbie like me would experience. There's so many, like, there are so many things to do, like so many systems, and the fact that the game is pretty much goading you into playing it, I don't like that. I don't like being forced to play anything. It's just so annoying. If a game is fun, I would play it. Like, it's just that simple.
In comments from the developers, it seems like Lost Ark is moving in a new
Whenever
direction.
I feel forced, I just
One where
leave.
rewards are more implemented from gameplay and less from being able to spend. A direction where newer and returning players can catch up to the most recent content. Where finding the most optimal group is not always necessary to complete some of the hardest content. And overall, a game that, while being definitely complex in its own ways, is becoming a bit more simplified, and in my experience, a bit more enjoyable again. So is Lost Ark worth returning to in 2025?
Interesting.
I'd say absolutely yes. My experience with
Hell no. Yeah, seems like this is the end of the video, so I'm gonna leave a link in the description. You guys can watch it for yourself, give it a like and a sub. After seeing this, I'm not gonna lie, I was very fascinated by like the first half of the video. It was great, and then it kind of got depressing towards the end there. I mean, there's too many systems, man. This game is not for me. I know that if I'm gonna try it over again, I'm just gonna leave for the exact same reason I left the first time. It's so annoying because I'm dying to play this game. It looks so good. Like, the raids look fantastic, the bosses are incredible, gear is phenomenal, it's one of the best I've ever seen in my life, gameplay is god tier, we already know that, but I can't play this, man. It's just too many systems. I hate that. Like, I hate that. I hate being forced into playing a game with having energy systems, and you're limited to how much gold you can earn. Who does this? Like, who does that? That is so cringe. And he didn't really talk about the pay-to-win element, but he did mention them, so I'm sure that's probably gonna make me want to quit anyway. It's unfortunate, man. This game looks so good, but I will say this. whatever they did here is definitely a step in the right direction. I really hope that one day this game would become playable, at least, you know, for me, because I'll never be a huge fan of these systems. I want to see them out. Like, I want to see them out the window. Or at the very least, I said list, like, at the very least, like, simplified, right? I mean, it's so crazy. You have all of that stuff to track. It's just too much, man. Like, it's just too much.